They say life rarely announces its turning points. One minute you're scrolling through a recipe on your phone while stirring soup, and the next, you're not even in your body anymore. That's what happened to me. My name is Serafina Darrell, and until that moment, I lived in a quiet suburb just outside of Calgary. That day had unfolded like countless others: emails, errands, helping my daughter with her science project, heating leftovers for dinner. I remember laughing at something ridiculous my husband said. And then, suddenly, everything dropped away. Not in fear or pain, just absence, followed by the most vivid clarity I have ever known. I was floating, staring down at myself collapsed on the kitchen floor. My husband was shaking me, calling my name, our 10-year-old son crying in a panic beside him. But I couldn't feel any of it. No pain, no fear. It was eerily calm, like I had stepped outside the storm. And though I didn't know what had happened to me, I knew I wasn't supposed to stay. The peace didn't last long. Something unseen began pulling me forward, not with hands or gravity, but with knowing, like a voice without sound was calling me. And then, I saw him. I hadn't grown up religious, not really. We went to church maybe twice a year. Jesus was more of a concept than a companion. But in that moment, there was no mistaking him. I didn't need a sermon to recognize him. He stood there with an expression that melted my soul, authority wrapped in sorrow, kindness cloaked in strength. "Serafina," he said, and it wasn't just my name. It was like he spoke to everything I had been hiding my entire life. My self-doubt, my pride, the quiet compromises. He saw it all, and I felt both known and undone. Then he said something that confused me. "There are 5 things in your home that are blocking angelic protection. 5 open doors." I blinked. 5 things. My home was peaceful. I played worship music. I had devotionals on my nightstand. I didn't summon spirits or play with Ouija boards. But before I could respond, he said, "Let me show you." In a blink, I stood outside my house. My exact house. Same doormat, same shoes by the door, same wind chimes that had tangled in last week's storm. But something felt off. The air was heavy. And there, standing at the entrance, was an angel. Beautiful, radiant, but unable to cross the threshold. It was like something unseen was holding him back. He didn't look angry, only heartbroken. I turned to Jesus. "Why can't he enter?" I asked. He answered, "There are things in your home that have given the enemy legal ground. Not intentional, but real." Those words haunted me, legal ground. I had assumed God's protection was automatic. That being a decent person who prayed occasionally was enough. But now I saw how uninformed I had been. Jesus led me inside. My house looked normal, but it felt different. Shadows lurked in corners where light should have reached. He brought me to our living room. There, hanging proudly above the mantel, was a tribal mask I had bought years ago during a trip to Ghana. It was hand-carved, artistic, symbolic. I thought it was beautiful. Jesus looked at it without speaking for a long moment. Then, gently, he said, "This was never meant to be in your home. It was made and dedicated in darkness. And each time it's seen, it whispers what it carries." I stared at the mask and suddenly I knew. Not just in my mind, but in my spirit. It wasn't just art. It was a tether. A bridge between our world and something else. I remembered how our living room always felt unsettled. Arguments that began for no reason. My children avoided that area. My Wi-Fi mysteriously glitched there more than anywhere else. "Can I throw it away?" I asked. Jesus shook his head. "You must first break the agreement. What was welcomed, even unknowingly, must now be rejected." I didn't know spiritual things required permission. But I saw how even ignorance could serve as a yes. And as I renounced it in my heart, Jesus smiled. "There are still 4 more." We walked to my bedroom next. I had designed it with great care. Soft linens, warm tones, hanging plants, incense, and wall art that felt boho sacred. Above my bed hung a dream catcher. I thought it was harmless. Beautiful. An Etsy find. But now, in his presence, I could feel the weight of it. A presence clinging to it, like smoke trapped in thread. "It was crafted in deception," he said. born from belief in powers apart from me. It does not protect. It distracts. Suddenly, all the nights I had woken up gasping for air, frozen with fear, made a sick kind of sense. I thought it was anxiety or stress. I never once considered that something in my room might be the reason peace couldn't fully rest. He touched it, and I saw the spirit behind it, thin, whispering, familiar. It had lived above my sleep for years. I cried. I didn't know. He nodded. Now you do. The third item sat innocently on my bookshelf, a jade Buddha, a souvenir from a layover in Thailand. It wasn't worshipped, just displayed. I had told myself it was cultural appreciation. Jesus didn't rebuke me. He just said, "You host what you allow. And the enemy doesn't require your belief, only your space." We moved next to my son's room. I felt it before we even entered, a buzz of chaos. Posters lined his walls, and one, in particular, caught my eye. Dark colors, angry lyrics, the face of a skull cloaked in fire. I had let it stay, wanting to support his independence. But the energy it carried was undeniable. Jesus said, "Music forms atmosphere, and some sounds invite shadows." I saw how that poster, and the music it represented, had become a gateway. His mood swings, nightmares, disinterest in prayer, they weren't just phases. They were responses. Finally, we entered my office. The room I had always thought of as safe. My sanctuary. He walked straight to the cabinet by my couch. I didn't need to open it. I already knew. Inside was a stack of spiritual books I had picked up over the years. Energy healing, law of attraction, crystals, manifestation guides. I never practiced rituals. I just liked the idea of them. Self-help with flair. But now I saw it clearly. These were not neutral. They were replacements. Invitations to evolve without God, to command the universe instead of surrendering to the Creator. Jesus rested his hand on the cabinet. You don't need to kneel before an altar to come into agreement. You only need to entertain what was never from me. I was speechless. Not condemned, just pierced with truth. You must decide, he said. Will you keep decorating your home by culture, or will you let the kingdom design it? With every fiber of my being, I said yes. And as I did, the air shifted. Not dramatically, but deeply. Like fresh wind blowing through a sealed room. Angels walked freely again. Peace returned. The barriers I never knew I built came crashing down. It wasn't about superstition. It was about alignment, authority, trust. I turned to Jesus. Why now? Why not earlier? His eyes softened. Because now you were ready to listen. When I returned to my body, pain welcomed me back. Beeping machines, paramedics, chaos. She's back. I heard someone cry. And but I wasn't the same. I told my husband. We cried together. We went through every room. Removed the mask, the dream catcher, the statue, the poster, the books. We prayed out loud. We wept. We repented. And slowly, our home transformed. My son slept peacefully. My marriage softened. Our laughter returned. The weight was gone. We didn't just talk about God's presence. We lived in it. Now, I tell you, not as a preacher. Just a woman who was allowed to see the invisible. Maybe you think your home is fine. Maybe you're not into spooky things. But have you ever asked Jesus to walk your halls with you? To show you what shouldn't be there? Not to shame you, but to set you free? Peace isn't just a feeling. It's a presence. And that presence cannot cohabitate with darkness. So I ask you now, what's in your home? Because that choice might just change everything.